And we're back with round 3 action of the Modern 2K series at the Blackjack. It's 2 players in the feature match area this round are Shad on Naya and Brandyn Lawrence playing a black-white tokens deck. Shad has won the die roll and has elected to be on the play. Both players looks like they are resolving mulligans at the moment. So, just off the bat, who do you favor in this match again?
Well, black-white tokens plays very similar to Soul Sisters, and traditionally Zoo decks have had a hard time dealing with those type of decks, especially with the main board Sword and Solemn Visitors in Brandyn's list, and also there's just so many creatures that Shad has to try and get through, and unless Shad gets either an early Knight of the Reliquary in order to fetch that Keswick Wolfhound, he's going to have a hard time dealing damage to Brandyn.
Yeah, so that Keswick Wolfhound we've seen from Shad is going to be important in this match. We see the composition of Brandyn's decks, kind of just these token generators like Lingering Souls and Bitter Blossom. So it'll be a bit more difficult for Shad to punch through all of that in the pre-boarded games.
Post-board, at least, Shad may have some options to deal with Bitter Blossom. And the one upside is Bitter Blossom is going to take a toll of Brandyn's life total, so Shad may be able to finish things off a burn if Brandyn doesn't gain life somewhere along the line.
Yeah, so we see both players assessing their 6 card hands and deciding whether they want to keep. In Brandyn's hand, you see Plains, a Sword and Solemn Visitor, a couple other cards. Both players decide to keep. Both Scryers are kept on top, and Shad leads with a stomping ground into a Walnut Cattle. Does Walnut Cattle a 2-2 at the moment?
Yeah, and the 2-2 becoming a 3-3 may prove important in this match because tokens doesn't really get started until turn 3. It's generally going to try to resolve one of its 2 drops and then multiple creatures by playing Lingering Souls or Spectral Possession.
So we see Brandyn lead on basic planes, passes back to Shad. Shad untaps, throws a card with that card is Tremoka's Command. Plays the basic planes that the Cattle get in for 3. But Brandyn decides to path to exile the Nekatl. Shad searches up a basic land, likely to be a forest. So, how do you feel about using the path to exile that aggressively?
Well, the thing with tokens is you have to sort of establish a board presence first, so making sure your opponent doesn't have a board presence is generally a good option. And the path to exile, even though it's ramping Shad up, Shad's list actually doesn't play anything like Wilted Leaf Liege, so it's kind of hard for Shad to really get extra benefit from more lands other than getting Knight of the Reliquary.
So Brandyn on his second turn just plays an Uriok champion and passes. So that's the 2-2 from 5th Dawn that gains your life each time a creature enters the battlefield. Shad just making sure he knows what it does. So Brandyn will gain 1 life thanks to the knight entering the battlefield.
Also broccoli.
Also important on the champion is that it's got protection from red and black, so lightning bolts won't work on it.
Chinese Pride.
So
there we actually see a Chinese Pride Mage, and the interesting interaction is the Audio champion gains him 1 life, and that immediately triggers the Pride Mage to get a +1/+1 counter. So this deck play is quite similar to Soul Sisters.
We've seen Brandyn's hand, it looks like he's got 3 copies of Lingering Souls and a Sword and Solemn Visitor as well. So he's just missing his black mana at the moment, and his 3rd and 4th land drop. But otherwise, he has a particularly potent hand against the Zoo deck. So on instep, Shad fetches for an untapped Temple Garden.
He's probably going to try and path this. Either, well, more than likely the Pride Mage, but it could be the Audio champion that gets pathed here.
So past the Pride mate. That'll get exiled. Brandyn searches for basic. We'll probably look for his basic swamp.
Here's another question, Hamza.
He finds the
He
plains.
fetched the planes here. So does that mean he's not interested in casting his black spells in hand? Or does it mean he just wants to consistently cast spells?
So Shad plays the Tiramokus command, puts a 1-1 count on the knight and fights the Oreo champion. He's gonna get in for, looks like 5 damage this turn. Yeah, I mean, Brandyn does have that sword in his hand, and he needs the swamp to cast it. Also, the swamps also needed for the flashback on Lingering Souls. But his hand or his deck, the texture of his deck may force him to need more white mana than we know. So Brandyn taps 3. So Brandyn casts Spectral Precision. I beg your pardon, he's got multiple copies of that card in his hand. So Shad plays Horizon Canopy, attacks with Lockdown Smiter. Brandyn looks to chump block with one of the spirits. Oh, 4 damage. That looks like
probably gonna fetch the case of Wolfman.
yeah, Shad's gonna tap the knight, search his library for the Kiss of Wolfram.
It's gonna give it's only 6 damage plus 3%.
And likely to give, could potentially give the smiter as much, give the smiter an extra 3 power.
So here we see Shad actually giving his smiter plus 3/+0, and then Brandyn will take 6 of that exchange.
So Shad also losing a life of the Horizon Canopy, since that only taps for green or white mana. So Brandyn currently has an Inquisition of Kozilek in his hand, which is uncastable. Also has a Sword and Solemn Visitor.
It's also pretty awkward if you Inquisition your opponent and you see Lockdown and Smiters.
Yeah, that not necessarily the best matchup for Inquisition. Taps 3 planes.
It's probably going to be the second spectral position.
Yeah, it's another Spectral Precision from Brandyn. And looks like he can start attacking with 2 of the spirits. If he chooses not to, just passes back.
He kinda wants to trade up with the smiter here.
Shad playing utility lands in his deck, like Gavin Township and Keswick Wolfram. So having both of those mana sinks are important for a deck like this.
And the interesting thing here is Brandyn kinda has to block both, and Shad can choose to pump whichever one he wants at this point. If Brandyn decides not to block, Shad can easily just play another spell, not even pump. So he's incentivized to block it. At the same time, it's not a beneficial block because of the Keswick Wolfram.
Brandyn just lining up his blocks.
Trigger in combat or
Deciding here to potentially quadruple block. Yeah, quadruple blocks the last run smite.
So we're gonna actually see that Rising Enemy get sacked. It's gonna pump the Knight and try to draw a card off it. And Shad does actually get the Lightning Multiverse, so he's probably gonna take out one of the spirits and save his Lux and Smiter. Sure, his Shad's actually just gonna elect trade.
4 spirits for 1 smiter, and then Shad shows Brandyn the lightning bolt, and looks like we're going to be going to game 2.
Yeah. Okay.
So let's have a look at these place sideboards. We've got Shads with us again, one that we're familiar with at this stage. He's got 1 Ancient Grudge, 2 Blood Moon, 1 Garrock Teague, 1 Kitchen Finks, 3 Core Firewalker, 1 Thundermaw Hellkite, 1 Waytear, 1 Gideon Ally of Zendikar, 1 Grafdigger's Cage, 1 Rest in Peace, and 1 Sagada Host of Herons. What do you like in this match?
In this match, I actually think Blood Moon is really good against Brandyn's deck. At the same time, if Brandyn manages to get a bunch of basics like it in that game, kind of just shuts him out. The other thing is, Garrock Teague is actually pretty good against Brandyn's Planeswalkers, so is Rest in Peace against his Lingering Souls. However, Shad doesn't really want to dilute his game plan that much. I do see him wanting to bring in Wear and Tear definitely, so he can get rid of at least a Bitter Blossom or Intangible Virtue at the key point.
Then we've got Brandyn's sideboard, which is 4 Celestial Purge, 2 Drana Liberator of Mamalik here, 4 Duress, 1 Immolating Glare, and 4 Sundering Growth.
Well, in my opinion, it's interesting to see Sundering Growth there because the Populate on mechanic will copy a token Brandyn already has. I don't be super relevant in this matchup. I do think that Brandyn will probably bring in Immolating Glare and maybe Drana to pump his team. Duress in the matchup is probably a bit of a miss because Shad's deck doesn't play that many non-creature spells. I can see him bringing in a couple just because Inquisition isn't always amazing against decks that play Loxodon and Smiter.
Yeah, you can say that again. So while we wait for our players to shuffle up, you can find these uploaded videos as well as other playlists of previous events on the YouTube page called Like Shack Online. Remember to like, share and subscribe, share us with your friends, like us on Facebook, follow on Twitter and Instagram at the Like Shack. And if you've got any questions, comments and concerns, you can email us at info@likeshack.co.za, and we'll be glad to answer you back. For any of your singles or accessories as well, you can go to likeshack.co.za, find that seal product you need, the singles you need for your standard deck. If you've got an EDH deck that you need to complete, you'll more than likely find the cards you need over there.
Also, if you do manage to find yourself playing at the Like Shack, there are various refreshments on sale so you don't get sort of parched or hungry while playing. Remember, you can buy a special, which is, as Chris would like to call it, the... Actually, I forgot what Chris called it, but we do know the special is Shade Thrower Chris's favorite. And the special is a cool drink, chips and chocolate for 21 Rand. Great value for money, better than a garage, better than most corner shops.
So here we see Shad looks like he's resolving a mulligan. Brandyn deciding whether he's going to keep this hand. So it looks like he's keeping. Looks like Brandyn's hand is a little bit land heavy.
At the same time, it does have a play on turn 1. I think it's an Inquisition of Kozilek as well as the already champion turn 2.
So I think what's important in this match is for Brandyn to kind of stymie Shad's early aggression. So here we see him lead on an Inquisition of Kozilek. Shad reveals double Knight of the Reliquary, 3 lands. Well, it looks like 4 lands. 4 lands and 2 knights. Brandyn takes the knight. Shuttle throws back to turn.
And he actually manages to draw Birds of Paradise here.
So that's one of Shad's best throws in that spot. Leads on Forest and Bird. Passes back to Brandyn. Brandyn here unable to cast the Warrior of Champion because he led on basic Swamp. And that costs for white.
Well, he can still play this. Well, if he so chooses, he can play Intangible Virtue. I'm not sure if he has a follow-up play with tokens to sort of get extra value from that card, but it is one of the more important cards in the matchup for Brandyn.
So we see the top deck on Shad's side is a Kasali Pride Mage, which is perfect timing really. Yeah, he can blow up that Intangible Virtue at his leisure. And this is going to set Brandyn back a bit. So Shad sacrifices a Windswept Heath, fetches a Stomping Ground, goes 17. So his options this turn is to tap all his mana and cast a Knight, which would be a 3/3, or he can leave open 1 mana and cast the Kasali Pride Mage.
I feel casting the Pride Mage this early isn't as important because basically Brandyn has no board, so that Intangible Virtue isn't doing anything as of yet. So Shad can always just go Pride Mage in his next turn to destroy it.
Yeah, so we see Shad choosing to play the Knight, passing back to Brandyn, who plays Isolated Chapel, taps 2 white, casts the champion. The champ is now here on Brandyn's side of the board.
Well, we'll see later on if he actually becomes champ. Thanks for that, Hamza.
See Shad deciding how he's going to navigate this turn. Decides to attack with a Knight, which is a 3/3. Brandyn takes it, goes down 17. Shad plays a tapped Sacred Foundry, taps 3 mana and casts a Lost on Smiter. Brandyn gains a life with the champion trigger. So the draw for the turn for Brandyn look like basic planes. He decides to play the Caves of Koilos that's been in his hand.
And he's probably going to lead up with a second Intangible Virtue here. Oh, actually, Kasali Pride Mage. Pride Mate's going to get the +1 encounter because Brandyn gains 1 life. Yeah. And the Pride Mate's one of the more important cards in being able to keep up Shad's creatures from Brandyn, because Brandon's unable to go wide here, so he kind of needs this Pride Mate to stay alive. Shad may be hesitant to play additional creatures this turn, just so, okay, sure, he plays the Pride Mate now, so Brandon's going to gain 1 life, and the Pride Mate's going to get a bit bigger. I would have liked to have him rather let the Pride Mate wait a turn, but I suppose the trigger here to give +1/+1 is going to negate that +1 encounter.
The Shad here attacks with the Luxtrans Smiter. Brandyn chooses to just take the 4 damage.
5 actually, because of the
Exalted.
trigger.
I beg your pardon. And he cast a wild Nakatl.
So Brandon's going to go up to 6, and the Pride Mate is going to go up to a 5/5.
Brandyn plays Godless Grand Tact. He's got some big draws in his deck. His Planeswalker, Sorin, or any of his token generators would be really good draws. With that Knight on the field though, Shad is just threatening to go fetch the Keswick Wolfram. So yeah, Shad taps the Knight, sacks a Forest.
We may actually see, instead of the Keswick Wolfram this time, we may actually see a Cavity Township make an appearance. Just so Shad can pump his board, because his board is actually bigger than Brandon's at this point.
Yeah, so that looks like the decision Shad is making at the moment. Whether to fetch the Gavany Township or the Keswick Wolfram.
And he does in fact fetch Cavity Township. So Shad actually feels he doesn't need to trample over this game just yet. He just needs to go wide with bigger creatures.
Yeah, he's probably going to be adding less to the board to negate that Pride Mate, and probably just pump up the creatures he currently has on the board to try and brute force his way through Brandon's defenses.
Yeah, the downside of fetching Keswick Wolfram would be you'd have to lose a creature every time you attack into that Pride Mate. So Shad probably just trying to weather the storm a bit.
The card Shad's drawn for the turn, we didn't get a good look at it. But deciding whether he wants to attack with it, locks it on smite. Attacks for 5 thanks to the exalted trigger.
However, it can become a 6/6 if Shad so wishes. So Brandon has to be careful whether or not he wants to block it this turn. It's a long card.
So Brandon not blocking there. Takes 5, goes down to 11. And Shad in his second main phase decides to just pass the turn back. Brandon draws for the turn. Looks like a Lingering Souls. Brandon plays a basic plane first time. So that Lingering Souls is a big draw for him. It gains him some life, creates blockers, and it pumps up the Pride Mate. So Brandon puts Lingering Souls on the stack. Shad has responses.
Shad's probably deciding whether or not he wants to sack the Pride Mage.
So the card in his hand was a Tremokus command. Shad, presumably one of the modes he's going to choose is to sack an enchantment and then fight the champion.
Yeah, fighting the champion is at least going to stop the Pride Mage from getting bigger. He could also trade his knight off with the Pride Mage by using the knight's ability to sack a land.
So it looks like Shad just deciding what the modes under Tremokus command are going to be. Decides to ghost court his Sacred Foundry. Finds planes. Looks like the modes are second enchantment, knight to fight the Pride Mate.
And the knight is a 6/6 now because of that ghost court to play.
So once his Lingering Souls resolves, Brandon will only gain 2 life. And I'll have 2/1 on flies.
And we may actually even see Shad sacking his planes just so he can fetch the Keswick Wolfram and trample over the spirits.
So here we see Brandyn flashing back the lingering souls as well, so he'll gain another 2 lives. So he goes back up to 15.
And I actually think I may have decided to go score the Gavany Township instead of the Sacred Foundry, just so I can fetch a basic land and have mana of like actually produces a color instead of colorless this stuff. So Shad may have just not seen that, and that's why he's not fetching the Kessing Wolfland. Like actually he's deciding to fetch the Kessing Wolfland. And now the issue is Shad has to tap his bird for mana. Not that the bird will be attacking, but he has to tap the bird for mana, and that's the only way he can sort of continue using this Kessing Wolfland. At least he gets to publish creature by 1 power. And both players just fidgeting around with their decks.
So on the board at the moment, Shad likely ahead. His creatures are just bigger than Brandyn's at this point in time. Shad swinging with everybody except the bird.
Brandyn just confirming that the Brand Mage is in fact just a 2-2 before deciding where to block.
Like Brandyn lining up the block with a chomp block on the knight and deciding whether you should double block. Triple block the Wild Nacatl. So it looks like he's gonna double block the Nacatl.
Well, the Nicatl's only a 2-2
2-2
because
at the
the
moment.
plane's the point. So going to take 2, and then Shad has the option to pump and give trample to his knight with an reliquary more likely. And the knight is actually a 7/7 right now, so it's gonna get +1/+0, go up to an 8 power creature and deal Brandyn 7 damage, and he's also gonna take 2 from the sprite range.
I'm just gonna put him down to 6. So now we see after that combat step, Brandyn's board is there's not much left over. Shad with a dominant position on the battlefield at the moment.
And Brandyn was very unlucky not to get any token producers early on to make use of that intangible virtue.
Yeah, it just looked like he's flooded out quite badly here. Shad's draw for the turn is a Gideon ally of Zendikar.
Unable to cast it though, so just moving in for the full attack.
Yeah, Shad swings with everybody, Brandyn snap blocks the knight,
And that's game.
and it's the lethal. And Shad moves on to 3-0 and we'll likely see him in our next match.